This is the review of the self-assessment component of the lessons. So I'm using here Year 1, Unit 1 as an example. At the end of each unit in the lesson plans, there is also a similar self-assessment. So you'll see one of these for Unit 2 and Unit 3 as well as you move through the lessons. But they're all structured very similarly. So I'm using Unit 1 self-assessment here and the video for the purposes of illustration. So you can see here, there's some front matter as usual, just reviewing what the unit learning goal is. The goal of this particular lesson is for students to self-assess their learning, obviously. And then as a teacher for assessment, you can review what students write on the self-assessment. This most aligns with the CASEL framework self-awareness element, and students save their self-assessments for their portfolio. In order to be able to do the self-assessment, students should have at the ready their portfolios that they've been compiling through their engagement with the lessons. Those would include things like their notes, their completed worksheets, any assignments they did, so that they can look at how their thinking has evolved. And then there's also a rubric that as a teacher you can use to assess them. The instructions for this lesson are pretty simple. So students first have the opportunity to hear you as an educator, hopefully modeling some reflection. So looking at the self-assessment handout, which basically has the unit learning goal, and then it has each individual lesson goal underneath that are a part of the unit. And then you can talk through how your thinking changed as an educator on some of these particular dimensions, just to help guide students, hopefully not in a leading way, but just to give them some examples of maybe how thinking has changed so that they have something as an example to spark their thinking. And then you want to spend the bulk of this lesson just giving students time to write, do some self-assessment on the worksheet handout. This can also be a moment for adaptation. So while we have the handout for writing, maybe there's our students who would more prefer to talk about their learning in an audio format. Maybe they want to make a podcast. Maybe they want to record a video of themselves. Maybe they want to make some type of even like an artifact that they think represents their learning and how their thinking has changed. You could open up the self-assessment, depending on what you think is most appropriate for your students, to some of those forms of expression as well. Once students have finished, once you've given them hopefully 25 or even 30 minutes to do this, you can have a quick class discussion as a full class, like what surprised people as they looked back on their portfolio, how do they think that their thinking has changed, how confident do they feel about certain concepts, and what are they maybe still unsure about, or what are they hoping to dive into more deeply.